some slippage in the fiscal deficit from medium-term fiscal policy statement of last year. Then we expect some reform measures to continue. Some statements about support to the rural economy, which is not in a good position in last 2 years. Other than that, there will be some statements or the programs which will boost economy by giving some dose of investment push. These are basically 3-4 major things which we are expecting in this budget.
There are broadly two expectations that we would have from a corporate perspective. One is clearly in terms of the fiscal stance of the government, whether it will continue to consolidate its fiscal position or would it be willing to expand its purse. And even if it were to consolidate, then what is likely to be the kind of focus on capital investment going forward? I think that's going to be critical. The other is the focus on commodity sectors. What kind of safeguards and protection could realistically be provided in the next financial year? And that's something which is going to be critical in terms of managing stress during the course of FY17 for some of these commodity-linked sectors.
In the 2017 budget, we'll look for three things from the government. Firstly, whether they look to expand the scope of the Indradhanush plan for the public sector banks. They had announced about INR 700 billion of equity infusion, and whether there is any thought of expanding or ramping up the amount they look to infuse. Secondly, we'll look for any more color or development on the Mudra Bank, which they announced last year, whether there will be additional money allocated to it or the scope gets expanded. Finally, we'll like to hear a little bit about the Bank Board Bureau, which again they talked about in the last budget, but we haven't heard about it much since then.
The budget, one does expect a lot in the construction sector. Government expenditure is one of the key drivers for expected growth in this sector. The infrastructure push and the budgetary allocation for the infrastructure push is something which we would look forward to with great interest because that will directly affect the construction sector. Apart from the construction sector, we have the real estate regulation bill which is pending for a long time. Of course, that's not perhaps part of the budget, but that is another government action which we are looking forward to. Of course, any increase in spend on healthcare will directly impact the pharmaceutical sector and the domestic growth as well. Though the domestic growth is already at a very good growth rate of around 13%. Any higher outlay on health care can also perhaps increase the demand for pharmaceuticals and therefore would be positive for the sector.
We expect this budget to be positive for the power sector, especially on the renewable side, where the subsidies available for the wind sector should be increased. Also, the amount available to the SABs to upgrade the systems should also see an increase.
For the steel sector, we expect largely two reforms, which should be the thrust area for the government. First of all, we expect announcement of either safeguard duty or anti-dumping duty on the imports that are coming in from the various countries like China, Korea, and Japan. Secondly, we also expect a greater thrust on the infrastructure activities, which should actually lead to a demand pickup for steel, which is currently plaguing the industry. So once the demand picks up, then the sector could actually see a revival.
Now both auto and auto ancillary sector have done well in FY16. So as such, industry does not have any specific expectation from the budget. However, given the current environment where courts have ruled against sale of diesel vehicles, the government could provide some kind of policy guidance in terms of how this sector will move forward.